Most men have absolutely no idea where they actually stand, and I mean that with the deepest compassion, not as a criticism. They walk through their days, their social interactions, and they arrive at the same painful conclusion. If women aren't throwing themselves at me, I must not be that attractive. And they carry that belief like a stone in their chest, heavy, invisible, and completely unexamined. But what if I told you that the most attractive men, the ones women genuinely notice, talk about, and quietly orbit, are often the least aware of their own appeal? Welcome, I'm Lauren, and this is the Lauren Psychology Diary. This channel exists for moments exactly like this one. If you've ever sat quietly with the thought, maybe I'm just not that guy, I want you to take a slow breath with me right now. Because real, grounded, unhurried presence is one of the most magnetic qualities a human being can carry. Women experience attraction differently. It begins inward first, with the quiet internal question, does he notice me? The first sign, and in some ways the most universal, is lingering eye contact. And I say universal because men miss it constantly. You glance up, your eyes meet hers, and then she holds your gaze, just a fraction of a second longer than necessary. And here's the detail that makes this sign undeniable. She looks back. That second glance is not accidental. It is confirmation. Many men break eye contact first out of uncertainty, but there's a middle ground, soft steadiness, a calm, unhurried hold. Now let's move to the second sign, proximity, the quiet, deliberate positioning of a woman's physical self within your orbit. Attractive men create a kind of gravitational pull, a woman who, at a gathering, seems to keep appearing in your peripheral vision. I worked with a man, let's call him Robert, who was convinced he was background noise, but a woman chose the stool beside him on 3 separate evenings. Once he allowed himself to consider that maybe he was someone worth moving toward, everything in how he engaged began to change. He became more present. Now the third sign, and this one is about something you may have felt but never quite trusted. People listen when you speak. Bodies orient toward you. People wait for your response with a quality of attention that's different from ordinary listening. Maturity has something far more rare than youth. It has gravitas, the quality of a voice that doesn't need to shout because it has learned its value. Practice the pause. The person most comfortable in silence almost always holds the emotional center of any conversation.
Let's move into the fourth sign now, and this one is where psychology becomes truly fascinating. It's mirroring, and it is perhaps the most biologically honest signal of attraction that exists. Mirroring happens when someone unconsciously begins to reflect your body language back to you. You lean back in your chair, she leans back. You touch your jaw. Moments later, her hand moves to her face. Your speech slows into a more relaxed rhythm. Hers follows. Your posture opens, hers opens in response. This is not imitation. It is not a conscious choice. It is something far more primal than that. It is nervous system alignment. When we feel genuinely safe with someone, when we feel drawn to them, our bodies begin to synchronize in ways that operate completely beneath the level of thought. Heart rate subtly adjusts. Breathing patterns begin to align. Posture reflects similarity. From a neuroscience perspective, this happens because of mirror neurons, a class of brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone we feel emotionally connected to performing that same action. Mirror neurons are the biological basis of empathy, of rapport, of the feeling that two people are somehow on the same wavelength. When a woman mirrors you, her nervous system is communicating, I feel safe here, I feel connected here. And that is significant because for women, emotional safety is the foundation of attraction. Here's something practical. After a few minutes, try subtly mirroring one small element of her posture. Not a manipulation, but a deepening tool. Just a gentle, quiet reflection. And then watch. Connection deepens quickly. It almost always does, because you are speaking directly to her nervous system in its own language. Attraction, at its deepest level, is not loud. It is layered. It is felt in the body before it is understood by the mind. If even one of these signs feels familiar, if you're reading your own past experiences here, I want you to pause, let it land. You have never been unseen. You simply needed new eyes to read them. Now we're moving into territory that goes beyond body language. The fifth sign that you are a highly attractive man is when the compliments you receive go beyond your appearance. Physical compliments. You look great. I love your jacket. These are real and they matter, but they're surface level. They require nothing more than eyes. But when a woman says, I feel really comfortable around you, when she searches for the right word to describe your energy, That is a categorically different kind of signal. She is describing your presence, the quality of being in your vicinity. Presence, the felt sense of another person, is the deepest foundation of lasting attraction. Research shows that emotional safety and felt security are the strongest predictors of long-term romantic interest. Physical attraction opens a door. Presence makes someone want to walk through it. Let me share a story about Thomas. He was in his late 50s, recently widowed, and convinced that his window for connection had closed. He was gentle, not flashy, and didn't own rooms theatrically. But women told him consistently that he was easy to talk to, that they felt heard around him, that there was something calming about his presence. He dismissed it all as politeness. But Thomas really listened. He didn't rush to fill silence or try to impress. His calmness wasn't passivity, it was presence, and women experienced him as deeply grounding. He thought he was ordinary. They experienced him as rare. If you've been brushing off comments about your energy or steadiness, I want you to hear me clearly. Stop. Those comments are data. The next time someone offers you a compliment about your presence, try something radically simple. Look at them and say, "Thank you." That means a lot. Just receive it. Confidence is built by allowing the truth to land. Now for the sixth sign, and this one plays out in public every day. You catch people looking at you, not once, repeatedly. Quick glances that cut across a room, they check again to see if you noticed. Human beings are neurologically wired to scan for social significance. Our eyes move toward what matters, toward faces that signal status, composure, or emotional presence. This is hardwired. This is not about physical perfection. Qualities that draw sustained attention are composure, groundedness, and behavioral confidence. It's how you occupy space, how comfortable you seem in your own body. Many men wait for an unmistakable smile, but the initial signal is more subtle. It's in the tracking behavior. It's in the look away and check back pattern, one of the clearest windows into what someone feels. The next time you enter a public space, resist the pull toward your phone. Enter with your shoulders relaxed, your chin level, your pace unhurried. Let your gaze move calmly and openly around the room. And then simply observe. Notice who looks. Notice who looks again. You may be surprised, perhaps even startled, by how often awareness is already meeting you halfway. We're 6 signs in, and I'm curious. Is something beginning to shift? Are you finding yourself in these descriptions? Tell me in the comments which sign has surprised you the most so far. Recognition is where real change begins. Now the 7th sign, and pay close attention because this operates on a level most never examine. The 7th sign is how other men respond to you. Women are exquisitely attuned to this. Men instinctively assess social hierarchy. Women read these dynamics, who they defer to, who they seek out for opinions, with remarkable precision and speed. Respect looks like not being interrupted. It looks like people genuinely asking for your perspective. But competition is also a signal when another man becomes louder or escalates his humor in your presence. That is recognition. In evolutionary terms, a man responding to a perceived rival, and you cannot be perceived as a rival unless you are perceived as significant. This is social proof in attraction psychology. But the most attractive men do not chase status. They do not perform dominance. True confidence does not escalate. It stabilizes, it grounds, it makes the people around it feel calmer, not smaller. The invitation here is not to perform less, it's to trust more, to trust that your natural presence, unaugmented and unperformed, is already enough, more than enough. Now, the 8th sign, the one that synthesizes everything. The 8th sign that you are a highly attractive man is this. Women assume you have options. You may have heard comments like, "I can't believe you're still single." Desperation has a psychological signature. Abundance energy looks different. It is calm and patient. It does not rush intimacy or manufacture connection. It has the quality of someone who is genuinely fine. When a woman senses you are comfortable with yourself, she experiences you as rare. Attention from someone who gives it freely costs nothing. Attention from someone who is selective feels like a gift. The irony is, you may not have multiple options right now. It's irrelevant. What matters is whether you radiate the energy of someone who has built a life worth living, a life rich with purpose and standards. Do you behave like someone grateful for crumbs, or like someone who chooses carefully and values himself honestly? That question has the power to shift your entire relational dynamic. Right now, in your next room.
Now I want to pause here and do something important before we go any further. Because we've been through 8 signs, 8 specific, psychologically grounded, real-world indicators that you are more attractive than you've been allowing yourself to believe. And I want you to do an honest internal inventory right now, not from ego, not from wishful thinking, but from genuine, open awareness. How many of these have shown up in your life? Lingering eye contact that you dismissed as coincidence, women positioning themselves near you that you explained away as random, rooms that went quieter when you spoke, someone mirroring your posture, a compliment about your energy that you deflected, repeated glances from across a room, men who became louder in your presence, women who assumed, without evidence, that you had options. If even 2 or 3 of these feel familiar, I want you to understand something clearly. The issue has almost certainly never been your attractiveness. The issue has been ownership. The issue has been a self-perception that was built long before you had the awareness to question it. And that has been quietly filtering out evidence ever since. Attraction is not about trying harder. It is about removing the self-doubt that has been obscuring what's already there. Before we go deeper, if this is landing for you, I'd like you to do one small thing. Hit the like button. Not for the algorithm, though yes, it helps this conversation reach more people. But more than that, as a private signal to yourself that you're ready to see this differently, that you're willing to update the story. Now, let's go deeper. Here's a paradox I have observed with striking consistency across years of studying human behavior. The men who are genuinely, deeply attractive are often the least aware of it, and not as a quirky exception, but as a pattern, a pervasive, heartbreaking, completely unnecessary pattern. Why? Because most men were never taught to measure themselves accurately, not in the ways that actually matter for attraction. From the time you were young, the feedback you received was tied almost entirely to performance, to achievement, to productivity, to providing, to solving, to showing measurable results. You were praised for doing, not for being. You were valued for what you accomplished, not for how it felt to be in your presence, not for your emotional steadiness, not for your capacity to make others feel genuinely seen, not for the quality of energy you brought into a room. So you developed a results-based framework. Did she say yes? Did she text back? Did she compliment me directly? If the answer wasn't visible and clear, you registered it as failure, as absence, as evidence that you weren't enough. But women's attraction doesn't operate on a scoreboard. It operates like a current, subtle, responsive, and energetic. And if you were raised to ignore subtlety, to trust only what's explicit, you may have spent years surrounded by interest. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Daniel. Daniel was 64 years old, divorced for 7 years. Carrying a belief that women were no longer interested in him, he described himself as background noise. But when we began to examine his experiences, women at his gym frequently chose equipment near him. A barista not only remembered his name, but leaned forward when he spoke and extended their conversations. At community events, women laughed easily at his observations, far beyond what politeness required. Daniel dismissed every single one of these moments. He had an explanation for each. She's just friendly, they were being polite. He was, without knowing it, running a psychological operation against himself, and it's called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias works like this. Whatever we believe about ourselves, our minds act as filters, amplifying information that confirms the belief and minimizing information that contradicts it. It's not dishonesty. It's not stupidity. It is the brain doing exactly what it was built to do. Maintain a coherent, consistent narrative. The problem is when the narrative is wrong, built on old pain, old rejection, the filter keeps running. The work, then, is not to find better evidence. The work is to update the filter, to practice a new kind of seeing. And I want to give you something concrete for that, something you can actually do starting this week. At the end of each day, write down one moment of positive social feedback. Just one. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be a smile from a stranger that lasted a beat too long, someone leaning in, a compliment about anything. Write it down, and here's the crucial part. Do not analyze it. Do not immediately construct an alternative explanation. Over time, and this is supported by neuroplasticity, your brain begins to build a counter-narrative. The filter begins to shift, not because reality changed, because you finally started seeing reality accurately. Now let's go even deeper, There's a layer beneath all of this that I think is the most important thing I'll say. True masculine presence, the kind that creates genuine attraction, is not about dominance or performance. It is about something far more fundamental. It is about nervous system regulation. I want you to really hear that. Women are extraordinarily sensitive to emotional stability, not just intellectually, somatically, in their bodies. When they're in the presence of someone whose nervous system is chaotic, reactive, approval-seeking, it's a signal of danger. Conversely, when they are in the presence of someone whose nervous system is genuinely calm, it feels like safety. And safety is not just a foundation for attraction. For women, it is a prerequisite. Emotional predictability. Research consistently demonstrates that individuals with secure attachment styles are perceived as more desirable. Emotional predictability is deeply biologically reassuring. You don't have to be perfect. You simply have to be regulated. And here is a practice that can begin building that regulation right now, before you enter any social environment. Inhale through your nose for 4 slow counts. Hold for 4 counts. Exhale slowly, completely, for 6 counts. This is not a trick. This is biology. That specific pattern activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It shifts you to rest. When your body is regulated, your presence changes, not because you're performing, because you actually have it. Many men make a counterproductive mistake. They try to amplify. Louder confidence, more deliberate eye contact. It almost never works, because authenticity is detectable. The performing version creates a sense of inauthenticity. The goal is not to add something you don't have. The goal is to stop subtracting what you do have. Self-doubt leaks. It shows up as over-explaining. Fill every silence with more words. It shows up as unnecessary apologies. It shows up as nervous laughter. Breaking eye contact too quickly, looking away before the moment has resolved. Confidence is often an act of subtraction. What can you stop doing? Can you stop filling every silence as if it were a threat? Let me speak about silence. In conversation, silence is not emptiness. Silence is texture. It holds the emotional center. When you pause, you communicate that what she said was worth actually hearing, not just worth filling the space. Rarity creates value. Practice this. Try holding eye contact for just 1 second longer, softly, steadily, and let a slight smile move through. Observe what happens. I think you'll surprise yourself.
Now I want to bring everything we've explored today into a full, integrated whole. Because recognizing the signs is one level of awareness. Understanding the psychology behind them is another level. But embodying what you now know, letting it actually change how you move through the world, that is transformation. And that is what this final part is about. Up until now, you may have lived inside a quiet but persistent uncertainty, questioning your own instincts, misreading signals, assuming absence where there was actually presence. And that uncertainty, as invisible and internal as it feels, shapes behavior in ways that can be profound. Because when a man isn't sure of his own value, he seeks confirmation. Constantly, subtly. He positions himself as someone waiting to be chosen, rather than someone who is actively, thoughtfully choosing. But when a man knows his value, not arrogantly, not defensively, but simply and cleanly, everything shifts. He doesn't need to seek confirmation, because he's already operating from a place of sufficiency. And that shift in internal orientation produces a completely different energetic signature. One that is immediately, viscerally detectable. Here is what I want you to understand about the dynamic between masculine and feminine energy and attraction. This is not about gender roles or social constructs. This is about polarity. Feminine energy, at its core, is responsive. It opens toward what feels safe and steady. It gravitates toward what has direction without force. It is, in the most beautiful sense, an invitation, but it responds to the right kind of leadership, not dominance, not control, but direction, presence, the sense that someone knows where they stand and where they're going. And masculine energy, at its most genuinely attractive, is not aggressive or performative. It is grounded. It is the quality of a person who doesn't need the room to validate him, who moves at his own pace. Now I want to speak to something that lives beneath all of this. Something that is at the root of most of the self-doubt we've been exploring today. Many men carry a deeply ingrained fear of rejection, experiences in childhood or early adolescence that lodged themselves into the nervous system as truth. You become exquisitely sensitized to the possibility of rejection, to any signal that you're being dismissed. But you are not that young man anymore. It is time, past time, to update the story, to consciously, deliberately, and compassionately retire the survival strategy that served you then but limits you now. Here's an exercise I want to give you for this. A real one, rooted in cognitive behavioral psychology. I want you to think of 3 specific moments in your life when a woman showed you genuine interest. Maybe she initiated a conversation unprompted. Maybe she paid you a compliment. Maybe she simply looked at you in a way that you knew meant something. Write those 3 moments down. Ask yourself, what qualities were you embodying in those moments? Were you relaxed? Were you absorbed in something meaningful? Were you just being fully and without apology? Attraction shows up most powerfully and most consistently when we are simply being ourselves, without self-monitoring. It shows up in the gaps between the trying, in the moments when we forget to be anxious. Now, let's talk about a practically transformative shift. Let's talk about the question you're asking in interactions. Most men are silently asking, "Does she like me?" But what if you shifted that question entirely? What if the question became, "Do I actually like her?" Not as a game, but as a genuine recalibration. Are you curious about who she actually is? Whether her values resonate with yours? This is what I call masculine discernment. It is one of the most powerfully attractive qualities because it communicates that you are someone who chooses. Thoughtfully, from a place of self-knowledge, women feel this instantly. The difference between a man who is hoping to be selected and a man who is genuinely, calmly considering his own criteria is palpable. It shows in how he listens. Grounded, masculine curiosity invites feminine energy to open. It creates safety without neediness. And it shifts the entire dynamic from pursuit and approval to mutual, genuine discovery. Attraction is not something you build by becoming more impressive. It is something you uncover by removing what has been obscuring it, by releasing the self-doubt, by retiring the old story. You do not need to be flashier. That approach, even when it produces short-term results, produces results with the wrong people. It attracts people who are responding to a performance, not to you. What creates genuine attraction is alignment. It is the quality of being so comfortably yourself that the people who belong in your life can recognize you, can say, "Yes, this." Not everyone will feel that resonance. And that is not only okay, it is healthy. Selectivity creates polarity. The goal was never to be irresistible to everyone. The goal is to be undeniable to the right person. Let me paint something for you. You walk into a room. Your shoulders are relaxed. Your chin is level. Your pace is unhurried, just at the speed of someone who isn't fleeing or chasing. You greet the people you know with real warmth. You say something honest, and you don't immediately check to see if it landed well. You just say it, from the settled ground of someone who trusts their own voice. Across the room, something happens. A woman notices, because the absence of neediness is itself remarkable. And then she positions herself closer. There's something about your energy, and you, for perhaps the first time, don't deflect it. You let it land, because you understand what it means. It means you were always this. You just finally stopped arguing with it. The most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with your own perception of yourself. Perception shapes behavior. Behavior shapes energy. Energy shapes what you broadcast. When you carry yourself like someone who belongs, because you've done the honest work of updating an old, inaccurate story, the world responds differently. People lean in. Women see you differently. You simply stand, firmly, in the full, quiet, powerful truth of who you actually are. And the right woman will feel it. You won't have to chase it. It will simply find you. Which of these 8 signs have you experienced most often? Tell me in the comments below. Your answer matters. If this conversation has shifted how you see yourself, please share it. I'm Lauren, and this is the Lauren Psychology Diary. Please subscribe if you're looking for real growth and real depth. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next conversation.